For my sister. She didn't deserve this. He begins to strike her face with his fists. A medical student full of dreams and aspirations vanished mysteriously after her classes. 24 hours later, police found her body in a terrifying state, brutally beaten, injected with an unknown substance, and asphyxiated with a plastic bag over her head. The killer was no stranger. This was a coldly planned crime carried out in the heart of the medical university community in Tijuana. Stay with us to uncover the full truth behind this shocking case. Eneida Rosario Ramos Noriega was born in the border city of Tijuana, in the state of Baja, California, Mexico. She was the daughter of Cecilia Noriega and Benito Ramos, and grew up in a loving home with her older sister Esmeralda. From a young age, her loved ones affectionately called her Chayito, a nickname derived from her middle name, Rosario, which would stay with her for her entire life. Eneida always had a clear dream: to become a doctor. This calling for medicine led her, after finishing high school, to enroll in the medical program at the Autonomous University of Baja, California, Tijuana campus, one of the most recognized institutions in the region. During her teenage years, Eneida met a young man named Alejandro Castellanos. Coincidentally, he had also chosen the same career path and enrolled in the same university to study medicine. Their friendship soon blossomed into a romance that lasted for about 4 years. However, according to friends close to them, the relationship was marked by conflict, constant ups and downs, frequent arguments, and temporary breakups. Despite it all, on social media they often appeared affectionate, leaving loving messages that stood in stark contrast to the reality they lived offline. After 4 years, they decided to end their relationship for good. Although they were no longer a couple, they continued to see each other in the university's halls and classrooms, as they were in the same program and maintained some level of communication. Over time, it became known that Alejandro had confided in Eneida about a difficult personal period he was going through, mentioning family conflicts that left him feeling deeply depressed. On several occasions, he even threatened to take his own life if she ever stopped talking to him or cut him out of her life completely. After her separation from Alejandro, Eneida began a new relationship with another classmate, who also happened to be a friend of her ex-boyfriend. This situation deeply angered Alejandro, who made no effort to hide his displeasure. A few weeks later, however, he also started a new romance with a law student from the same university named Carla Vanessa Garza, who was well known on campus. Despite the complications in her love life, Eneida maintained a balance in other important areas. Her relationship with her family was stable and close, and her academic performance at the university remained excellent. Everything seemed to be pointing toward a promising future for her. But that future took an unexpected and tragic turn on April 29, 2016. That day began like any other for Eneida's family. The 22-year-old woke up early, got ready as usual, and left for the university to attend her classes. She was in her 8th semester of medical school. Her routine was predictable. Every day, she returned home around 10 o'clock at night. So, on that day, her parents calmly waited for her at the usual time, never imagining that anything could be different. But when the clock struck 10 and Eneida had not arrived, a sense of unease began to creep in. At first, they thought she might have been delayed by something minor, a last-minute assignment, a chat with a classmate, traffic. But as the minutes ticked by and she still didn't appear, their concern grew. They tried to reach her several times, calling her cell phone insistently. The phone rang, indicating it was on, but Eneida never answered. With no response, her parents began to panic. Thinking someone else might know something, they contacted relatives, friends, and acquaintances, asking if anyone had seen her or been with her that day. But everyone gave the same answer: no one knew anything. Having exhausted all other possibilities, they made a desperate decision. To check the local hospitals, they feared she might have been in an accident. They visited several medical centers asking for a young woman matching her description, but found nothing. No one fitting their daughter's description had been admitted. With nowhere else to turn, they went to the authorities. They filed a formal missing person report at the police station. In the early hours of April 30th, Eneida was officially declared a missing person. Given her strict routine and established habits, her sudden absence immediately raised red flags for investigators. The police launched an urgent search. Flyers with Eneida's photo and information were posted in strategic locations, near her home, around the university, and circulated on social media in the hope that someone might come forward with information. But as the hours passed, no concrete leads emerged. The uncertainty grew with every minute. Police began questioning Eneida's friends, classmates, and close contacts. One of the first people they focused on was her current boyfriend, as authorities in such cases often consider the romantic partner a person of interest. When interviewed, the young man stated that the last he knew, Eneida had planned to meet her ex-boyfriend, Alejandro, around 8 p.m. that evening. That was the last thing they had talked about around 7:30 p.m. After that, he received no more messages or calls from her. Although he grew worried by her silence, he tried to reason that maybe her battery had died or she was simply busy. He never imagined, he said, that something serious could have happened, as Eneida met with Alejandro fairly often, and had never mentioned feeling uncomfortable or in danger during their encounters. The police then attempted to contact Alejandro Castellanos directly for questioning. However, he flatly refused to speak with them. The only communication he had was with Eneida's parents. He told them that she had canceled their planned meeting that day and never showed up. He claimed to know nothing more about her whereabouts. In the initial hours, the investigation stalled. There were no solid leads and no key witnesses, but one piece of evidence proved crucial: Eneida's cell phone. Her parents had noted that it was still on and ringing the night she disappeared. Using geolocation technology, police were able to trace the device's signal to a specific house. It was the night of April 30th, just one day after Eneida's disappearance. When they arrived at the address, they made a shocking discovery. In the basement of the house, they found her lifeless body. The property was located in the Colonia Revolucion neighborhood of Tijuana, the same area where a witness had reported last seeing Eneida around 7:30 on the night she vanished. The scene was horrifying. Her body showed multiple signs of physical violence. According to the medical examiner's report, the cause of death was asphyxiation, a fact that was immediately apparent as a plastic bag had been placed over her head. While the examination revealed no signs of sexual assault, it did document numerous bruises across her body. Furthermore, a toxicology analysis found traces of hydrochloric acid in her system. A distinct bite mark was also visible on her right arm, but the most shocking revelation was not just the state of the body, but the identity of the homeowners. The house belonged to the parents of Carla Vanessa Garza, Alejandro Castellanos' current girlfriend. And it was Carla who would become the key to unlocking the case. Faced with the evidence, she decided to talk. She was the one who revealed every detail of the crime. Carla Vanessa recounted in detail what happened on April 29th, the day Eneida disappeared. According to her testimony, Alejandro picked her up that afternoon, as he often did. But from the start, she noticed something was different. Instead of arriving in his own car, he was driving his mother's. Then came another odd detail. He asked her not to sit in the passenger seat where she always sat, but in the back. The request struck her as strange, but she said nothing. Sensing her discomfort, Alejandro tried to reassure her, telling her he had a special surprise. He reminded her they were celebrating another month together and that he had a gift for her. He also mentioned they would make a quick stop to pick someone else up first. Carla admitted to the police that this seemed unusual, but she trusted him, assuming he had planned some kind of elaborate romantic gesture. A few blocks later, Alejandro pulled over and a young woman got into the car. It was Eneida. Carla Vanessa insisted she had no idea who the girl was. However, several university classmates and mutual friends told police the opposite. They claimed Carla knew perfectly well who Eneida was, as her long-term relationship with Alejandro was common knowledge among the medical students. Despite this, Carla stuck to her story. Once Eneida was in the car, she and Alejandro began a conversation about medical topics using technical language that Carla didn't understand. She said she felt excluded. Her unease grew when she realized Alejandro wasn't driving toward her house, but toward his. She became annoyed, thinking he planned to drop her off and be alone with Eneida. But when they arrived at his house, he simply parked. The three of them remained in the car, talking. According to Carla, the conversation continued without any apparent conflict, but then, in a moment she couldn't explain, everything changed. Without warning or a visible reason, Alejandro began violently punching Eneida in the face. What came next, according to her own account, left investigators stunned. Carla Vanessa said that upon seeing Alejandro attack Eneida, she chose to intervene, not to defend the victim, but to help the attacker. She confessed that instead of trying to stop him or escape, she grabbed Eneida from behind, holding her still so that Alejandro could hit her more easily. Then she said Alejandro pulled out a prepared syringe and injected its contents directly into Eneida's arm. When Carla asked what he was doing, he replied that the substance would kill her. But several minutes passed, and despite the beating and the injection, Eneida was still conscious, fighting with all her strength. Carla admitted that in the middle of the struggle, she herself bit Eneida on the right arm to subdue her. Every one of these details matched the forensic report perfectly: the bite mark, the multiple blows, the injection site. Seeing that Eneida would not lose consciousness, Alejandro changed his method. He took out a rope, wrapped it around her neck, and began to strangle her. Carla recounted that this finally caused Eneida to pass out. Alejandro paused to check her pulse. Realizing her heart was still beating, he took the final step. He pulled out a plastic bag and forced it over her head, holding it tight until she stopped breathing. Only when he confirmed she no longer had a pulse did he turn to Carla Vanessa and say, "It's done." The most inexplicable part of the entire confession was the chilling contradiction at its core. If, as Carla claimed, she didn't know Eneida and had no idea who she was, why would her boyfriend decide to kill her on that specific day, presenting the act as some kind of twisted surprise? Stranger still, this all unfolded directly in front of Carla Vanessa's home, with the car parked right at the entrance. She explained they waited inside the vehicle until her father left the house, as there was only room for one car in the garage. Once he was gone, Alejandro pulled the car inside. Together, he and Carla removed Eneida's body along with her belongings. Carla stated that on that same Friday night, they hid the body on the ground floor of the house. The following day, the Saturday after Eneida's disappearance, both Carla Vanessa and Alejandro attempted to carry on with their usual routine. Despite the horror of the previous night, they both attended their classes as if nothing had happened. Throughout the day, they acted normally in front of others, showing no signs of nervousness or guilt. After school, they even met for lunch, a seemingly ordinary date for any young couple. But after their meal, they returned to Carla's house with a specific goal in mind: to decide where they could permanently hide Eneida's body. After some discussion, they concluded that the basement, a seldom-used space far from the main areas of the house, was the most suitable place. It was then, as they moved the body once more, that something unexpected happened. Alejandro stained his pants with blood. Faced with this new problem, they went upstairs to the main part of the house, where Carla's parents were. Seeking a quick solution, Alejandro asked Carla's father if he could borrow a pair of pants. When her father noticed the stain and asked what had happened, Alejandro replied instantly that he'd accidentally stained himself while giving an injection, offering no further details. The father, suspecting nothing, accepted the explanation and lent him the pants without another question. Alejandro changed his clothes, and shortly after, he left the house. For her part, Carla Vanessa began to feel overwhelmed by guilt. The emotional weight of the crime and her role in it was becoming unbearable. Finally, she decided to confess the entire truth to her parents. She recounted every detail, from how Eneida died to the fact that her body was hidden in the basement of their own home. Her parents were horrified. They told her they couldn't remain silent and had to go to the authorities immediately. However, neither Carla nor her parents knew that at that very moment the police were already closing in. By tracking Eneida's cell phone, agents had located the house and were about to intervene. Just minutes after Carla's confession, the police arrived at their door. Upon entering, they conducted a search and found Eneida's body hidden in the basement, just as she had described. Based on Carla Vanessa's statement and the discovery of the body, agents had Alejandro summoned to the police station. However, when he appeared, he was accompanied by a team of lawyers. They prevented the police from conducting a formal interrogation, and so, at that time, Alejandro gave no official statement. The investigation, however, did not stop. Police obtained a warrant to search Alejandro's home, as well as the vehicles belonging to him and his family. While his residence yielded no relevant evidence, an inspection of his mother's car, the same one Alejandro had used to pick up Carla on the day of the crime, revealed crucial traces. There were bloodstains and human hair. The samples were sent immediately to the lab. DNA tests soon confirmed that both the blood and the hair belonged to Eneida Rosario Ramos Noriega. With this evidence, the police now had two clear suspects: Carla Vanessa, who had confessed her involvement, and Alejandro Castellanos, who was directly implicated by physical proof. The only remaining obstacle was formally interrogating Alejandro, which remained impossible due to the protection of his legal team. Even after Eneida's body was found and Carla had confessed, no immediate arrest warrants were issued. Both Alejandro and Carla remained free for a short period, a fact that caused profound indignation among the victim's family and friends. Eneida's family, seeing no concrete action being taken, feared the worst, that their daughter's murder would go unpunished. So, along with her classmates, all fellow medical students, they began to organize public demonstrations. These protests were held both on and off the university campus with the goal of demanding justice and pressuring the authorities to act. It wasn't until May 5th, several days after the body was discovered, that the authorities finally arrested both Alejandro and Carla Vanessa. They were initially charged with femicide, but this was later changed to qualified homicide. Investigators had clear evidence that the crime was premeditated and that the motive was a crime of passion. Jealousy. According to their line of inquiry, Carla Vanessa was driven by the insecurity she felt. Noticing that her boyfriend had not yet gotten over his previous relationship with Eneida. Alejandro, for his part, despite having a new girlfriend, remained obsessed with his ex. It was this toxic mix of obsession and resentment, experts believed, that led to the crime. Throughout the proceedings, Carla Vanessa repeatedly maintained that she was also a victim. She alleged that Alejandro had manipulated and forced her to participate, and that she never acted of her own free will. Her family even supported this version, insisting she had been emotionally and psychologically used by him. Investigators, however, did not share this view. During interrogations, Carla fell into several contradictions that cast doubt on her story. Some of her answers were inconsistent with the facts or forensic evidence, and her statements often lacked logic in the eyes of the agents handling the case. The judicial process dragged on, extended by numerous legal motions and appeals filed by the defense teams. Despite the gravity of the case and the compelling evidence, justice moved slowly. As late as 2017, Alejandro Castellanos had still not given an official statement to the authorities. It was only in that year that he finally gave his testimony, which was sealed by the police and has not been released to the public to this day. Even with solid evidence against both of them, including DNA, witnesses, and a confession, no sentence had yet been handed down. Under the Mexican Penal Code, if found guilty, they could face sentences of 25 to 50 years in prison. In October of 2024, Alejandro Castellanos Espinosa, Eneida's ex-boyfriend and the main suspect in the case, was sentenced by the court to 42 years and 6 months in prison for the crime of qualified homicide. To date, there is no official information regarding a sentence for Carla Vanessa, despite her admitted participation in the crime. Eneida's case sent shockwaves through the community in Tijuana, and to this day it remains a painful symbol of gender-based violence within the university environment. If you are a student, what does this case make you think about safety in academic settings? What changes would you like to see in the law after such a heartbreaking story? We want to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments.